Is there a science behind integrity in terms of how we behave? Is
fascinating. Yeah, the science behind it is fascinating. I talked just a little bit about the science, what it's demonstrated about trust and how it interacts with integrity. I spent some time with a guy by the name of Dan Ariely at Duke University. Dan's great. If folks that haven't seen what Dan does, he's a behavioral scientist who studies dishonesty. He's got a movie called Dishonesty. He has TED Talks on it and does a number of experiments. Fascinating guy. And when I was writing the book, I flew out to Duke, and he was nice enough to spend some time with me. We talked about an experiment that Dan did, where he fills up these rooms and hands out sheets of math problems and tells people, look, I want you to do the math problems. I'm not going to give you enough time to finish. When I say stop, I want you to stop. So people do the math problems. He says stop. He then says, I want you to come up to the front of the room one by one. I want you to take your sheet that you've been working on these problems with, and I want you to stick it in the shredder right here in front of me. And then after you've put your sheet in the shredder, you can leave the room. As you're leaving the room, tell the proctor how many math problems you did. And the proctor is going to give you $1 for every math problem you completed. Right? So people come up to the front of the room, they put the sheet in the shredder, they head out, they tell the proctor, they get their money. Now, what Dan doesn't tell them is that he modified the shredder. The shredder is only shredding the outer edge of the sheet. He knows exactly how many math problems everyone's done. The question is, how many people lie to the proctor as they're leaving when they're getting their $1 per problem? I don't know. What do you think, Rachit? What percentage of people do you think lie?
Probably 25, 30%, 1/4 of the whole lot.
Yeah, you are a
optimistic person.
Very positive spirit in the world, but your confidence in mankind is not backed up by data. 70% of people lie.
What?
And this happens consistently. Men and women are roughly the same. Believe it or not, there's no difference in gender. It's consistent across nationalities. He's done this with tens of thousands of people. 70% of people lie. Now, most people don't lie by a lot. They do what Dan calls fudging. So in other words, they'll lie by 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 problems, right? Why? Turns out that all of us face ethical challenges or ethical questions or integrity issues all the time in life. We are tempted to always choose the answer that benefits us, always, to fudge a little bit in our own favor. What keeps us from fudging a lot is our own conscience. That is, we still want to feel good about ourselves after we've done it.
Right.
So what ends up happening is we end up doing the thing that is in our self-interest, but only so far as we can still feel okay about ourselves afterwards. So with the math problems, for example, most people would be able to rationalize, adding a number 1 or 2 or 3. They can say things like, oh, my pencil broke, or I got a late start, or I saw other people were still doing another problem or 2 even after they said stop, or they're not paying me enough for this experiment anyway, so I'm going to take a couple of extra dollars to pay for the parking, right? He does another experiment with soda machines. You remember the old soda machines? When I was growing up, you put a quarter in, right? You hit a button and you get a Coke. Today, I think you put in dollar bills. Same thing, though. Dan took a number of these Coke machines, and he put a sign on them. And the sign said, if this machine is malfunctioning, please call this 1-800 number right here, okay? Put it around the flat of the machine. They took these machines and he scattered them all over town. But he modified the machine first, so that when you put your money in, the money came right back out, but you could still get your soda for free. You got your soda, and it was free, right?
Yeah.
How many people do you think called the 1-800 number?
70%?
None. Nobody called the 800 number to report the soda machine not working. Everybody just took the sodas. In fact, the average person took 3 free sodas and took advantage of the broken machine and didn't call. Why? Because everybody's been ripped off by a vending machine in life, right?
Yeah.
All of us have put money in a vending machine, and then they're pounding on the machine trying to get our money.
Nothing comes out, yeah.
And so all of us can justify and rationalize, oh, this is my chance to get back all those machines that ripped me off. I'm going to take the free soda. That's the way that people operate. So what Dan learned is, if you want to increase integrity, if you want to prevent dishonesty, the best thing to do is to create an environment where people believe that everyone around them is telling the truth and acting with integrity, where integrity is expected, where integrity is talked about and valued. Because in those situations, if you believe that everybody else is acting with integrity, then you feel like you have to act with integrity too, because you feel like you're just as good as they are, right? So where no one talks about integrity, that's where the problems are, or where people all around you aren't acting with integrity. Well, then it's easy to rationalize your behavior. It's like, well, they're doing it. The boss is doing it. Or no one's really said anything about that, so I guess it's okay. Silence is the enemy of integrity. If you want to increase integrity, talk about it. Dan did the same math problem experiment, but he did a twist on it. Before the experiment started, he asked everyone, write down as many of the 10 commandments as you can remember at the top of the page, okay? And then after everybody had a chance to write down as many of the 10 commandments as they can remember, they did the same experiment. What did he learn? He learned two things. One, nobody can remember all the 10 commandments. In fact, most people can only remember a few of them, right? But something really strange happened. Even for people who could only remember a couple of the 10 commandments, cheating virtually disappeared. That 70% went down to single digits. Why? Because when you remind people of a higher purpose, of ethics and integrity, just reminding them of it creates an environment where it's important and discourages the cheating that might otherwise exist.